Hi everybody and welcome to a quick look at the Canon EOS 5D Mark IV menu system. In this video I'm going to quickly fly through the menu system and give you a couple of tips and tricks along the way to help you be able to use your Canon and understand your Canon EOS 5D. To help you understand your Canon EOS 5D Mark IV's menu system. I'd just like to thank Dale's Photographic for making this video possible. They've borrowed me the camera to review and I'd just like to thank those. You will see the logo up in the top right and I will put the link to their shop in the description. They are in Leeds in the UK, so if anybody wants to visit a nice friendly camera shop then I highly recommend them. Anyway, so without further ado, let's get onto this menu system. So if we go to the top, you can see the first setting is RAW. Now, most newbies or new people will not know what this is. I shoot RAW because I do a lot of wedding videos and wedding photography, so I like to have the latitude to be able to bring the highlights and recover the shadows. But basically we can set RAW, small RAW, and we can also set a JPEG. I only use RAW, I don't bother with JPEG. Sometimes I do. If I've got a dual card slot in, which I've not got dual cards in this, I might set it to fire to the second card, to fire JPEGs all day long, and RAWs to the first one. So we'll have a look at that, and we've got the dual pixel RAW disable. Now, I'm not going to talk about this, but I'm going to give you a little tip. If we basically press the menu button, press the set button, and then we press the help button, it tells us what it does. So I don't know if you know that, but that's a good little tip if you're not quite sure on what to do. So we'll press the menu button again. We won't enable it because I don't need it. I've got the image review time set to 2 seconds. That's so when you take a picture and it comes up on the back of your camera, it'll come up for a couple of seconds. You can change that, it's personal preference. I've also got the beep enabled, so when my camera focuses, it lets me know by beeping. It can be pretty intrusive if you're at a wedding and you stood near a priest or something like that, so I do disable it when I'm in a wedding. This next feature is to do with your camera taking a picture without a memory card in. Now I'd set it so that basically it will not take a picture without a memory card, because if you let it take a picture with no memory card in, you could go to a job, take 50 pictures and not realise until you tried to play them back that there wasn't a memory card in your camera. So set it correctly so that with no memory card it'll say, hang on, I can't take a picture of no memory card, and it saves that happening. Right, your lens correction. This is to do with, I think it only works with Canon lenses, and you can see I've got a Canon 24-70 f4L lens on there, so they're all enabled. This is the lens correction, the lens distortion, the vignetting and all that lot, but it doesn't work with other lenses, so you can only use it with Canon lenses. Now this is a speed light control menu. I am going to skip it in this video because basically this is how to control your speed light and control external speed lights, and we're not going to cover it in this video, but it is there. So we'll just go back to the menu. Right, so what we'll do is now we'll move across to number 2. So here, this is our exposure compensation. This means when you take a picture in AV or TV or whatever, that you can say, right camera, you got it wrong, so we can tell it to go a little bit brighter or a little bit darker. We've also got the ISO speed settings, so we can set the minimum ISO and the maximum ISO here. So that's up to you what you want to set. I won't make you choose, you'll look up on that. Auto lighting optimizer, that is like, I don't use it. What it does is it tries to recover the shadows for you. It's like active delighting on an icon. Now read up on it if you want to use it. If you're a JPEG shooter, it might be a good setting to turn on, because it does try to give you the slightly broader dynamic range. It tries to lift the shadows, but I mean I do it in RAW anyway. Then we've got the white balance settings, so we can go through the white balance settings here. We can manually set it, or we can cover shade, cloudy, tungsten. I mean, these are pretty self-explanatory. What I would say do is I set it on auto, but if you went outside in the sun, you could change it to the sunny setting. If you went into the cloud, you could change it to the cloudy setting, but you'll find out that AW will get you there 98% of the time, and if you shoot RAW, you can fix it later. This is the custom menu setting for the white balance. You basically take a picture of a grey card or something white and you set it, and then when you've set it you can go in and tell it you want it to be your white balance. So it's quite advanced, but if you just YouTube custom white balance help, then you'll find out how to do that. But there's the setting, and then we've got the white balance shift. This enables us to, when automatic white balance works, we can tell it to go a little bit warmer, a little bit towards the red, a little bit towards the green. It's pretty easy to understand, but we don't really use that much, to be honest. I don't recommend you use it. Then we've got the colour space to sRGB. I set mine to Adobe RGB just so that I get a slightly broader colour gamut, but I shoot RAW, so it doesn't really matter. But if you shoot JPEG, you might get slightly more detailed colours in your JPEGs if you open it up to Adobe RGB instead of sRGB. So that's that menu system. I did say that we're not going to go on for too long. So basically this setting here is the picture style. We can change it to auto, portrait, landscape. You can fine detail or neutral. It's up to you. You can customize each one of these settings as well. But again, if you shoot RAW, you don't really need it. But if you're going to shoot JPEG, it might be quite handy to set a setting up for yourself and get it so it looks nice and that you're happy with it. Long exposure noise reduction, I think it's off by default. I enable it. It doesn't really harm your images, and if you ever take a 10, 20, 30 second exposure, it'll help reduce the noise. You've got the high ISO speed noise reduction. You can adjust how much, basically it's telling you on screen there what to do. So we won't go on about that too much. Highlight tonal priority. That's like, I don't recommend you use it really. But it can sort of help your images to give you more detail in the shadows. But there's a minimum ISO that you can shoot with it when you've got it enabled. Delete dust data. That's just basically if you get dust on your sensor, you can tell it to scan it and remove those pixels where the dust is. This is your HDR menu and your multiple exposures. We're not going to cover that in this video because it's a bit more advanced. Then we've got us intervalometer for time lapses and all that. Then we've got the mirror lockup, which is good for when you're cleaning your sensor. But again, it's a bit advanced if you're watching this video. I don't think you're going to be cleaning your sensor. This is for the live view shooting mode. This is a really good menu to know how to use. Basically, we've got live view shooting enabled so that we can shoot live view. We've got basically the AF mode here is to do with face tracking. I recommend you leave it on face tracking. So when you're doing videos, it'll use Canon's dual pixel technology, and it works absolutely fantastic. It's the best on the market. So we'll just leave that there. We've got the touch shutter disabled. You can basically enable that so that if you touch the screen and stuff like that, it takes the picture at the same time. Grid, that displays a grid over your video. Aspect ratio 3.2 and exposure simulation. I recommend, I think it's on by default, but you should turn that on so when you're adjusting your dials in live view, you get live feedback on your exposure. Because I don't know if you know this, but on some Nikon cameras you don't. You adjust your aperture in live view, take a picture and it looks really dark, but it looked great through your live view. Anyway, I won't bore you with that. We'll go on to this one here. Then we've got our silent shooting and we've got our timer. So that covers the basic menu there. We'll now go across to the AF. Now, this menu is pretty advanced and it's not really for the novices, so I'm not going to cover it in this tutorial. I'll cover it in a more advanced tutorial, but I will quickly just talk about it. If you just sort of scroll down these, they are telling you basically it's adjusting the way your camera focuses, how fast it focuses, how much it stays locked onto a subject, and it does sort of tell you what it's doing, so you can still play with them if you use your noggin. We'll just quickly, we'll just fly to number 2. We won't go across any of these because they're really advanced, not in this video. So if we look at the top here, we can protect images so that we can't delete them off of his memory card by accident. We can rotate images in camera, obviously erase images. Print order, if we're going to print and send them to his printer, which I don't do. Photo book setup, I ain't got a clue what that is. I've never used it before in my life. I can copy images and raw image processing, but we're not going to do that in this video anyway. Cropping, resize, rating, slideshow, and image transfer. These are pretty self-explanatory. If you don't know what they're doing, you can just go to them, press OK, and they just tell you. So they're really easy to use them, but they're really not to do with taking pictures. So again, we won't cover them in this video. It'll be an advanced tutorial. We will look at this end menu though, because this is a pretty good menu. Highlight alert, I recommend you enable that. That tells you when your highlights are overexposed, and it'll flash black on your screen to let you know. So if you ever see flashing black, I once sold a camera to somebody and he rang me up a few weeks later and said, John, there's something wrong with it, it keeps flashing black around screen. It's because I had highlight alert enabled. And anyway, we laughed about it and that with that. But I would recommend you enable it. Now this here, AF point disable, this will basically display your focus point and where you focused. So basically, it's up to you whether you want it on or off. Then you've got your playback grid, you've got your histogram brightness, you've got your movie record time, obviously magnification, and your HDMI out, which is not going to concern you for a newbie really. Right, okay, I'm going to end this video now because that's the basic menu pretty much covered. I know there was two that we quickly touched on, but they're advanced menus, and I'll probably do a second part on this later on, maybe in a month or something like that. I'll do a more advanced tutorial for the more advanced menus so that you can maybe get some tips and tricks on how to use those as well. But hopefully you've got a quick insight on the basic menu system of your Canon EOS 5D Mark IV. Thanks for watching. Please comment and subscribe, and a big thumbs up would be nice.